Hey everyone, today I'm playing with, because I sat out on the grass the last few days and unfortunately I think these all got picked on my grass because the gardener was here, so they probably ran over them with the lawnmower, but I did find one. It's a little pathetic here, but these are the little dandelions, which actually I pick and I feed to my guinea pigs. But I thought, I don't think I've ever painted a dandelion. So I picked one and I thought I might just give it a go just to have some fun. Today I'm using my Artisto pads. Love these. They've got great texture and I've got tons of them. I label them, catalog them. So I really like these. They're not 100% cotton, but they're cold pressed 140 pound. Love them, have great texture. And then I'm using my MeiLiangs. These are a sister company, by the way, of Paul Rubens, and I really like them. I don't have to think about the colors. They're really vibrant and really like creamy. So I really like these paints. That's what I'm using. And then these, this 8 round is always my favorite brush, an 8 round. This just happens to me from my brush line. That'll hopefully be coming out in the first of summer, I hope. Depends on the interest in them. And I will put the link if you want to go check them out. You can't order them yet, but you can check them out and they'll let you know if and when they do come out. And then my little Meeden palette, ceramic palette. I love, really important with watercolors to have a wash and a rinse because they're so transparent. You never want to go, like say use a red and then go into yellow because it would carry over. And then I've got my little paper towel here. So I'm just going to have a little fun with this little guy. I wish I had a bigger one. They're kind of fun to paint, or I don't know. I've never painted one, but they look like they were fun. All right, what I'm going to do, I think the color I'm going to use is going to be my yellow ochre for probably some of the darker parts. I'll use my sap green, which I always love, in my yellow green. I love those two greens. I love all, it's really funny because I love all their colors. Typically when I get a palette, there's always a few I don't use. The only ones I kind of don't use are the real bright, I think it's called emerald green, and I don't usually use a regular ultramarine blue. I don't know why, but I use all the rest. I love their browns. And then I'm going to use probably that lemon yellow because that looks like the exact color, and maybe add in a little bit of the cad yellow and maybe a just tiny bit for some shadowing of the yellow ochre, or maybe even some yellow sienna. So let's see, we'll go along and see how we do here. All right, so I'm going to start out kind of by memory. I really wish I had picked some more of those. And make some bigger ones. And then I do think this one's fun because it's kind of closed up. So you see the green and those little sepals, I think they're called. If you know, you can put it in the comments below. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with, and it looks like I have a little bit of another color in there with my, this is lemon yellow. And I did spray these beforehand. So just, if you are using pans, it just softens them up. And then I'll just put a little bit of that. I could put it on here on my palette, but I think I'll go ahead and use this. So just put a little bit in there, probably 50 water, 50 paint. Add a little bit more. I always start lighter because you can always go darker with watercolors. It's really difficult to go lighter. You can, there's a few ways you can, but I really like starting lighter and going darker. Okay, so that'll be the color I start out with here, and then I'll go into some of that yellow ochre in a few minutes. All right. So I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm just going to use the point of my brush and then apply a little bit of pressure so I get some of the belly of the brush. So this is the tip or toe of the brush. This is the ferrule. I do my best not to get any paint up in the ferrule because it can get stuck down in there, and then next thing you know, your little hairs are sticking all out. So I try to just do the belly and the tip. So I'm going to go ahead and start just creating this shape. And I always like wonky. To be very honest, you guys, perfection kind of bores me. So everything I do is always a little asymmetrical. I think it's just so much more creative for me. I feel so much more creative when I do things kind of wonky. And then from there, I'm going to, yeah, perfection. I've never been into that. It's not my thing. I'm just going in, and what I'm trying to do here is using the very tip of my brush, which when I designed the brush, I really tried to get as tiny a tip there as I could. So I could, because one of my favorite brushes is actually, I don't have it here, but the 8 Princeton round. I love it because it does have that ability to get that very thin point. So that's blending in quite well. I like that. I might even add just the tiniest bit of yellow sienna. That was a mouthful. And it almost creates a yellow ochre, but it's a little bit browner. And I might even just go in, yeah. And just to make it look like some shadowing. And then I'm going to pick up more of that yellow, blend that in. Oh, see, that's way too much. I always dab off my brush typically. I didn't that time, did I? Add a little bit more yellow ochre. And just going in, picking up some more lemon yellow. So if you're ever in doubt, just tap off your brush on the side. Really doesn't matter how much liquid you have in your palette. For me, it's more about I tap the side off and get some off, or you can just tap the toe or tip of your brush on a paper towel. And sometimes you'll be shocked at how much paint and water is in your brush. So there we go. I wanted to, before this dried too much, I want to see the inside there, yeah. Before it dried too much, I kind of wanted to get that stem in. So I'm just going to, you know what too, the paper towels I've been using lately, I use the reusable cloths as well a lot. We had a whole discussion about these. Yes, you can use diapers, you can use whatever you want. I like the disposable, not disposable, the reusable little paper towels, they call them. I just like them. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of the yellow green. As you can tell, this is my favorite color. And I'm trying not to go into my paint with the tip of my brush because I want to always really care for the tip of my brush. So I'm loading the side of my brush. Add a little water. Can scrape off on the side. And then some of that sap green. Got a little bit too much sap green. I want it to be more that lighter green. And I noticed when I was looking really close, which is always so fun for me looking at flowers, it's got a lot of this like reddish color in it. So once tapping off my brush, once I create that green, I'm going to put a tiny bit of that red in there. So again, I can fully load my brush here, full of water, just like a sponge. It's fat and big, but if I tap my brush off, a lot of that releases. So that's kind of what I try to do. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my olive green, add that in there. And now here's where I will add in some of that red. I think I'll use, let's see, what color is that? I want to say that's the darker red is madder red. And it's quite a deep red. And then I'm just barely going to tap into my, using really light pressure, holding my brush up and down. like that. And then I'll go back into that green, and I want to create some of these little sepals, which, because this flower is open, you may not see it as much. This is always so fun to me when I see new flowers. My mom, this weekend, I spend a lot of time with my parents so I can help them. And she had baby tulips that were so cute. And I was like, I just painted tulips, but I think I'm going to do these little baby ones. So there you go. There's my little dandelion. I'm going to do one that's a little bit more closed, maybe like that one I picked. So let me just grab some more of that lemon yellow, again using the side of my brush. It's funny because when I envisioned these, I was thinking they were more golden, but they're actually quite lemony yellow. And then I'm just going to do some kind of shooting up like that one is. Oops, I got a little bit of green there. That's why it's so important, you guys. Like I said a minute ago, if I go into the yellow, which I think I might have done with this green water, it's going to turn my yellow greenish, which it kind of did there. No big deal. Again, perfection bores me. I want creativity. I like unique style. And seriously, like, who judges art, you know? I mean, unless you're entered a contest and you want, it's something very specific, but who's anyone to judge art, especially ourselves? Like, be nice to yourself. So that's one kind of getting ready to open up. Now I'm going to wash and rinse my brush, pick up a tiny bit of that green, tap it off so I don't have too much in there. And if you're not sure about that, hold on one second. Just grab a paper towel. I love these like cottony paper towels. This is a regular paper towel. But you can always dab off and look at how much is coming off. Kind of amazing. And then because I don't want it to get too crazy, because I'm already going into wet paint. So I don't want my brush to have a ton of wetness on it too, or it's just going to turn into a huge blob. So if I was going wet onto dry paper like here, I could have more water. I'm going to pick up a little olive green to darken that a bit. I could pick up a little bit more water because I'm going onto dry paper. But if I'm going wet into wet paint or wet paper, you want to use a little bit less. And then let's create this stem. There we go. And I'm going to add some of that red. Again, madder red it's called, which I love those colors. I think these red colors are just gorgeous. How do you like my little palette I found too? Isn't that pretty? It actually, my aunt passed away recently and she had this in her collection. She didn't have a lot, but I happened to find that and I thought it was kind of cool. So I'm putting some red in there, and I might just add a tiny bit of green. Green and red are opposites, so it's going to turn into kind of a shadowy color and just create some of those little sepals coming out. I think they're so cute. This is one of the reasons I love finding a flower that maybe I see all the time. Like, I remember a kid picking these. My dad would pay me in the summer to pick all those out of our lawn. Isn't that funny? And I remember seeing all my friends driving by and thinking, God, they're so lucky. I have to sit here and pick weeds, you know? And then I'm going to go into that. So wash and rinse my brush. Make sure when I dab it off, it's clear. So I know I haven't got any paint in there. And then I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of the yellow ochre and go in and darken just so it looks like there's maybe some shadows. It's just a lot more interesting, and kind of add those in there. And I think when it dries, I might add a tiny bit of stems going up. So there you go. Let's see. How about if we do one kind of flat, maybe? Let's see. Let me think about that a minute. pick up some of my yellow. So this one I'm kind of looking at the fatter. It's really fat and open, but maybe there's another one here that's kind of turned. So I'm almost seeing a side view, right? And then pick up some of that yellow ochre. This is one of the beautiful things I love about watercolors is this wet and wet. I love wet and wet too. You can blend your colors on your paper because wet and wet, it's going to blend with whatever color you've got on the paper already. So I love that. It's always unique. You're always getting a different color. So I think something like that, maybe in the back, you can just barely see a few sticking up. There we go. And then let's do the stem. Let's see, I want to kind of, so that kind of bled in, but I'm okay with that. And now I'm going to darken that up with just a tiny bit of olive green, and then I'll go in with red. Because I just love how these kind of have a reddish tint to them, which I never really noticed. And there you go. There's 3 little things. Now the leaves are going to be a little tough for me because I don't really like these kind of leaves. I tend to make my leaves soft and flowy and things like that. So let's see how we can make a leaf. Let me play a little bit here. I want a little bit darker green. So I'm just mixing my sap and my olive green. And if I think I have too much water, I can always tap off. See how much paint came on there? But I'm going wet into dry. So I can have a tiny bit more water because the paint isn't going to spread everywhere. Wet on dry, it's going to stay right where I put it. Let me see here. Let me think about this a minute. Okay, I think I'll start with that. And then I really don't like these type of leaves that are spiky like that. I just tend to make them pretty and round and flowy, but I want to be true to the plant. By the way, these are very medicinal. You could totally put these in recipes. Like I said, I give them to my piggies, my guinea pigs. So something like that. I'm just using the tip of my brush and kind of blotting downwards. I'm looking at a little picture I took. I wish I could show these to you. I was trying to get up close, an up close picture, but couldn't get a good one. The one I have, it's like they have all these little things coming out of them. I don't know. You guys, I create my own leaves because I just like painting what I like painting. So here using the tip, I'm going to do that again. Find a different approach here that I might like. I'm just kind of scribbling with my, I think I like that better as far as trying to get that feel for that leaf. There we go. I don't know. What do you think, guys? How might you paint that? It's so funny when you get hooked on a certain style of leaf, it's just kind of what you do easily, right? Put a little more olive. So I'm just using a light pressure and the tip of my brush. And when I want to engage just the tip of my brush, I tend to anchor my hand. And I see a lot of people paint higher up on the brush, which is less control and kind of this thing. That's never been as comfortable for me. So I tend to, if I want to engage the tip, I'm going to hold my brush more up and down. And there we go. That's kind of fun. Kind of a squiggly thing going on there. Might leave some white space. I did notice it gets thinner at the bottom, so I probably like that one the best. That's where I started, kind of my norm. Then I went to this one. And then I used really the tip of my brush and went into that one. I'm going to add just the tiniest bit of that red, because I feel like that could maybe go into the leaves. Now that one already dried. And just tap in a little bit with that red. What I'll do with that, because that was already dry, I'll just dab in with some water. Just dampness, not a puddle. So I kind of like that, yeah. Now what I want to do is with the leaves, I want to make one in the background. So if it's in the background, and you can always test this on a little scrap piece of paper, I want to go a lighter value, just meaning more water. So these are probably, 75% paint, pigment, and 25% water. I'm going to do more like, or I'm going to try to, more like the opposite, 75% water and 25% pigment. Oop, did a little drop there. Oop, too much paint. Tap it off. Look at all that came off. Like that. So that way you'll see in a second here, it looks like it's more in the background. The foreground is going to be darker. It's just like if you're doing a landscape, your background mountains are going to be more grayish. They're going to be more muted because it's far away. The ones in front are going to be a lot brighter. So there you go. I could add a few more of those, maybe one here. I kind of like this technique actually. And I'm trying to leave some white space in there just for interest. So those leaves right away, they look like they're in the background. So there you go. That's how I would paint these little dandelions. They're kind of fun. And I think it's so much fun just to find things around the house and try and match the color, try and paint them. Like, who knew dandelions, right? But look at how cute. That'd be a cute little card. And if you have good calligraphy, you could, you know, write something up here. I write things on the cards I make, but guys, I am no calligrapher. It's been on my list for a long time. I think I even signed up for a class and didn't finish it because I was so bad. Anyways, there you go. I think those are kind of cute. All right, I hope you give them a try. Have fun.